Oh, hi, didn't see you there. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Centennial College's very own The Gallery. I'm your host, Sam.
And I'm your host, Deacon. Sam, please remind me, what is the gallery all about?
My oh my, I'm glad you asked, Deacon. It's a mix of all things extravagant, of sophisticated art, complex conversation, love to the warmest degree, mind-bending, magnifying music!
Yeah!
I
I heard you had a documentary for us. Is that correct?
Yes, this is a doc about a Guelph urban legend. Some believed him to be a myth until this footage was released. It's none other than the Shoeless Joe.
As in barefoot?
As in barefoot. Let's take a peek for ourselves.
Oh, my name is Joseph St. Dennis. Some people call me Shoeless Joe.
Shoeless Joe.
What am I doing here? I essentially am trying to repair computers and help people who struggle with this technology, and they're a plentiful group. When you come into a shop looking for some kind of assistance with it, why not try to create an environment that puts the mind at ease? And I don't know many people who feel at ease in like a sterile laboratory looking environment. But if you make something that looks like, it's your buddy's house and you're bringing it to him to help fix it up, that seems to put people at ease. I can't tell you how many people I have come in here and just say, oh wow, look at this place. Like, do you fix computers here? Like, it doesn't look like this at all. And it takes their mind off their problem a little bit, and it makes the process more pleasant all around. Tools and tech. Being of my generation, I'm a big fan of Monty Python. That's a gentleman named John Cleese, with an image from the most famous comedy sketch ever called The Ministry of Silly Walks. I scored that from, I think it was some chick on Facebook Marketplace, was looking for something to trade for like some of my accessories, and she had that thing. And she starts opening up to me about her life as a swinger, one of those swinging types. So this Monty Python album, which is fun for me because it's got the barefoot, which is one of their symbols in their comedy and obviously relevant to how I live my life. Yeah, so it's a two-part thing. There's the political thing and then the spiritual thing. Realistically, it all was kind of planted in my head in my teenage years, because I'm sure you've heard people make the jokes, because they're still made today, about, oh, we have children making our shoes. That was a very common joke when I was young, particularly regarding companies like Nike and pretty much every shoe manufacturer. This idea that there were sweatshops where little children were being forced to work to produce these things that we deem necessities. Like, these aren't luxury items, these are our necessities. You send your kid to school without shoes, you're going to lose your kid.
Labour activists are accusing sportswear manufacturer Nike of encouraging low wages and inhumane conditions at its factories in Indonesia.
Isn't it morally bankrupt to make yourself dependent on the exploitation of other people to provide necessities for your children? So the spiritual thing is a more personal thing. It seems like there's a connection between God and this, what I call the evolutionary engine of existence. I personally came to the belief that evolution is a factual thing and is part of God's design for how he creates life with free will. One night while I was out walking with a friend of mine and my shoes were falling apart and we were going over what my options were, it just occurred to me one of the options is to just not wear them at all. Show my faith in God through that, show my protest of our exploitation of others through it, and it's supposed to be a succinct, concise statement. And when you realize how hard life fights to survive and thrive and keep going, there's something deeply moving and inspiring about it.
Sam, would you go barefoot?
Funny you should mention that, Deacon. I already am. It's actually really good for your lymphatic nodes.
Oh, hold on. Thankfully, I'm getting an emergency call from Mingza. Ming, you okay over there?
Hi, so I am currently on our film set right now, and we got too many lights. We didn't have the safety meeting, and we don't have enough watts. So the house can only hold 1,500 watts, and the 600C is too bright.
Dude, who's your lighting guy?
I don't know, not me. Who did that? I don't know.
All right, well, good luck over there, Ming.
Anyways, you know what else is heat? This rapper.
Just put it on.
My name is Ashkan Shamlu. My artist name is Ashkan, and I'm from Oakville, Ontario. I make music, that's what I do. At the end of COVID, I started writing for fun, just to like express myself and kind of like journal entries. And then eventually that led to making beats, and then that led to recording my songs, and that led to where I am right now, and it's just, I make music, yeah. Living in Toronto definitely influences my music. You're surrounded by a lot of people that are just doing what they want to do and that don't really care about what other people are doing. And I feel like that energy of you don't really give a care about others is something that's very important when it comes to music. And it's something you're forced into when you live in a big city. And it's a good thing, it's not a bad thing. So living in Toronto helps me deal with the challenge of how my thoughts work.
I ain't need to use motherfucker, but I learned what motherfucker means in Espanol, cabrón. Hola, papi. That's what she said. I'm like, shorty, you not no mommy, because you can't have my kids, but you could still give me that sloppy.
I didn't mention that I'm also a barista, and it's a pretty easy balance. It's like, it's not a job where I don't want to go to work, but it kind of stops me from making music on days where I want to put in more time with music. But overall, it balances itself out, because it's like I don't think somebody can just sit inside and make music all day long. You kind of need to get out of the house. This wasn't a live performance, but the best feedback that I've ever gotten from my music was I got this random photographer, videographer from New York, telling me that my project that I dropped this year was a classic. And that was just cool because it wasn't like my immediate circle of friends or like people that I know or know of me. It was like some random person. And him saying that my album was a classic, or not album, it was a project. My project was a classic. That was like, geez, maybe I'm doing something right. My friends and family are super supportive. My friends believe in me, sometimes more than I believe in myself, and that's super helpful. And it kind of pushes me to keep going in times where I'm doubting myself. I definitely believe that music can change people's lives. It gives you what you need in that moment, hopefully. It's like, in my opinion, good music gives you what you need in that moment, and it'll hit you when you need it. It's definitely changed my life, and then it's hit me when I need it. It's not even, a certain song might not hit you when you first listen to it, but that wasn't when you needed it to hit you. There's been times where I listen to a song 5 years later and then it hits me with something else, and then that's when it's like, oh my God, that's when music's super important, super meaningful. When people listen to my music, I hope they feel however they need to feel in that moment. Whether it's good or bad, it is what it is. I don't know. But yeah, there's not a particular way I hope people feel. I hope people find what they're looking for when they're listening to music, I guess. If I have a message to share with the world through my music, it's gonna sound corny, but it really is just be yourself. And I know that being yourself is really hard, but you just have to own who you are, the good and the bad, and yeah, just try to be yourself as best you can.
Yo, Deacon, I be tweaking. All these guys got me speaking. Poetic like phonetics in class, getting these credits. Oh, hoo-hoo-hoo.
Sam, what would your rap name be?
Already thought of this. Samuel the Manual.
That name sucks.
Well, then what would your rap name be?
D-Money or, wait, Outback with Bob.
You can't be Outback with Bob. That's the name
Here
of
I
our
am.
next stop.
Let's watch.
This is me. Cute, right? And this is me now. But back to when I was a kid. An ongoing question I was always asking myself as a child was, what is my thing? It seemed like everyone around me had some sort of personality-determining hobby that I was lacking. But eventually, I found what I was looking for. I loved scrapbooking. I filled my notebook and picked up every magazine I saw. But after showing a friend one time, she told me that lots of people didn't see collage art as real art, since it was just using things created by other people. In order to figure this out, I reached out to Nora House, a previous art gallery curator and an artist herself, for a more personal opinion. Here's what she told me. All art is real art. The materials can be anything under the sun. The joy of art making is developing ideas you love and executing them with care in any kind of medium. I would caution against judging anyone's medium selection and instead look at the piece itself. The thoughtfulness, the care that went into the execution, and how the end result feels to look upon. Our inspirations to be creative start somewhere in our experience of being a human, and then having the privilege and opportunity to make something out of those ideas.
Read what's on the prompt.
I'm just gonna read what's on the prompter. Maybe I should start biking.
Or you could start scrapbooking.
Good idea. I'm gonna cut up my Reader's Digest.
Digest these amazing films.
I thought there was only one left.
Digest this amazing film.
Just run it.
Here I am, out in the middle of nowhere, and one thought just occurred to me. And that thought is that nobody in the world knows where I am.
Last year I made a film about my parents, specifically how they met, cycling around Australia. Upon making this film, I learned that my dad had written a book about his journey, and about meeting my mom. The book was never released, and no one but my dad has ever read it, sitting in limbo on floppy disks for the last 20 years. And he titled this book, Outback with Bob, named after the trailer he towed behind his bike for the journey. This trailer, which has been sitting in my attic for the good part of 2 decades. At the end of May 2001, my dad embarked on a trip around Australia on his bike. For the next 8 months, he would travel 19,000 kilometers across Australia, with only his bike and whatever his trailer could carry. He met incredible people along the way and experienced more than many do in an entire lifetime. And he captured it all on this little mini computer, writing a small email blog and a journal that he later used to help write his book. Once I came into the picture, my dad put the book to the side, never to be touched again. It wasn't until this year that I was actually able to get my hands on these floppy disks and retrieve my dad's long-lost book. A book that no one had ever read. A book detailing his entire 19,000 kilometer journey across Australia, and the story of him meeting my mom. And it was finally being read for the first time by his son, 20 years later. And I loved it. In the weeks since leaving Melbourne, I've noticed many changes in my journey. Riding with Joanna has made the days pass quicker, the company each evening is always guaranteed, and I don't feel the need to make an effort to meet new people, nor does it seem that anyone is reaching out to me anymore. The flag no longer draws the attention it used to, as cars pass by without cheery toots of a horn. At campgrounds, no one rushes over to greet me with a beer or question me on whys and wheres of my ride. This could be because I'm not alone, or maybe that in the more frequently traveled route, a cycle tourist is no longer an anomaly. But having constant company makes up for all I'm missing. Being able to share each day's experience of the last weeks of this journey with a real person and not an alloy/steel trailer is something I'll treasure. But having already shared 18,500 kilometers of Australia with Bob is something I would never want to trade. This ride to Sydney seems like an entirely separate trip, no longer goal-oriented, a relaxed one, an encore to an already fulfilled journey. I'd often pictured what my last day's ride would be like. On my long, lonely days, I dreamt about this moment, figuring I'd recount all the great days riding I had, thinking about the long, lonely roads, the changing landscapes I'd seen, and remembering each and every person I'd met along the way. I'd visualized every sunrise and sunset, and every place I ever camped. They were all wonderful, magical, thoughtful, but in reality, I didn't have time to think at all. The last day's ride was spent stopping to read road signs, making sure we didn't get lost, dicing with heavy traffic, getting cut up by motorists, honked at, sworn at, and then all of a sudden, there we were, in the heart of Sydney. Before I knew it, the Sydney Opera House was in front of me, but this was a fantastic place to finish my journey. I parked my bike and Bob at the foot of the steps to the Opera House and sat down, trying to comprehend what I'd just completed. I felt a great mix of sadness, happiness, and a sense of achievement. I just cycled for 19,500 kilometers around a continent, and here I was at the end. The realization of all I'd gone through was hard to come by. The extreme length of the roads, the grade of the hills, how hard the wind blew in my face, and how tired, happy, or sad I ever felt. All the traumas of being wet, cold, hot, thirsty, lonely, and the problems with my bike no longer seemed as bad as they might have been. All these things were easy to lose perspective of once the journey was over. But above all, I would never forget the people I'd met. From the welcome to Australia from Wiggy and everyone in Dimboola, to the inspiration taken from Holly on her 3-speed bike and the words of wisdom from Rick. As I'd cycled through the outback towns of Australia, I felt like somebody special. People waved to me as I passed. They spoke with me when I stopped and helped me out when I was in need. But whether it was a cup of tea, a beer, an orange, a meal, a ride in a 4-wheel drive limousine, a bed for the night, or a house for a week, it was the acts of hospitality which further endeared me to the people of Australia. The enormous sense of well-being that something as simple as riding a bike gave me was beyond comparison. Many times while cycling alone in the outback, I found myself smiling with great happiness and calm. I was completely at ease. I had no worries, no one to answer to, and nothing could disturb my peaceful state. Those were the moments of realization that I was living my dream. With my journey over, my mind began to drift again. My daydreaming took me off to another wonderful land. I was riding my bike and towing Bob up steep mountain passes, through wide open plains and prairies, passing moose, bear, and deer. A long road stretched out in front of me. It was a blissful place to be.
I, Paul Dale, also known as Daly, do solemnly decree that I am a spoke-changing god. Thank you very much.
Deacon, I'm stuck between a few career options. It's either scrapbooker, biker, rapper, or barefooter.
I don't think barefooter is a job, Sam.
Well, my job is actually lying, because we have one more film up left. Next up is Reimagine Spaces.
My name is Andrew DeRossi, and today I'll be showcasing Underpass Skate Park. To my left is the Gardner Expressway, and underneath it is this underutilized space. Now, in 2012, Rob Ford decided that he was going to place a skate park, a basketball court, and a playground. This benefited the space incredibly. It brought life, it brought community, and it benefited the community. Before, this space was completely underutilized. It was dark, people were hanging out here at night, it was bad, there was encampments, but now this space has been turned into an awesome place for the community, allowing for tons of different people, all ages, all genders, to come here and enjoy this space, as well as allowing graffiti artists to come paint and put their murals up, bringing color to this once derelict, empty space. So today, we'll be showcasing that. Behind me is Underpass Skate Park, Toronto's only covered skate park. This allows skateboarders to skate in the winter and during rain, also at night because the lights are on 24 hours. So it's a great resource for that. However, this skate park often falls under criticism by the skate community because its build isn't the best. It's prefabricated, which means it was built before it came here, and it's built out of metal and wood, which are not ideal to skate on.
Wood isn't a hard edge. See the hard edge on the metal? That locks in, that's rounded. And it's pressure treated wood, so like.
However, the alternative was before this was a nothing area. There was nothing here. So with all the problems with the leaking water and the slanted ground, at the end of the day, this is a pivotal skate park in the Toronto skateboarding community because it allows skateboarders to skate all year long at any point.
Anyone who's been to Toronto during the winter season has been to this historical site to indulge in pretty lights and hot chocolate at the infamous Christmas market. But very few know the actual history behind this revitalized space. My name's Lily Stubbs. Come with me and I'll take you through the highs and lows of Toronto's Distillery District. If you've been here before, I'm sure you've noticed this sign behind me. It's one of the first things you see when you walk in, and it's a popular picture-taking spot for those visiting. But what does it actually mean? In 1832, the Distillery District was founded by two brother-in-laws, James Worts and William Gooderham. Worts was a skilled distiller, and Gooderham had experience running a milling company. With whiskey being high in demand, it made perfect sense for the two to team up and prosper off this site. In the 1860s, the distillery produced a large amount of Canadian whiskey, and the site turned into a massive industrial complex, resulting in it as having its own infrastructure like office buildings, apartment buildings, and a dock on the nearby waterfront. These bottles represent a sampling of the bottles filled, corked, and labeled by Gooderham and Worts between the mid-1880s and the mid-20th century at this Toronto location. Also displayed are other bottles distributed by G&W. The earliest known Gooderham and Worts bottle dates from 1884. What seemed to be like a great success eventually ended up falling off in the 20th century due to changes in the alcohol industry and the prohibition in the United States, leading to this place eventually being closed down in 1990. But how did it become what it is today? In the early 2000s, this space was transformed and revitalized into an arts and cultural hub. The historic buildings were converted into galleries, boutiques, restaurants, and event spaces, and of course, the infamous Toronto Christmas Market. Overall, Toronto's Distillery District has been brought up to its fullest potential, creating a spot that Torontonians and tourists alike love. Its deep and rich history that you can feel while walking through the space never fails to amaze.
I'm reimagining this show coming to an end now. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you all same time next week.
Wait, I'm getting a call? It's Ming! Let's let him wrap this one up.